Hello there. The Cardassians are known for being an extremely brutal, violent and savage people. They're fiercely territorial, they're expansionistic, with goals that are sometimes a little mysterious but ultimately hinge on, we want more stuff. The Cardassians used to have a civilian government long ago in their past. In fact, they were quite a spiritual people known for their artistry. This all changed, however. As their society expanded outwards, it was an impoverished people. They were, you wouldn't even call them mediocre power. Cardassians are starved for resources. Now this can be attributed to many different factors. Poor allocation and management of resources. Not very developed industrialized system. Weak or poor government. A failing economy. There can be any number of reasons for it. But the Cardassians, despite their rich artistic heritage, lacked an industrial heritage, and as a result of this, the military took over. The democratic civilian government was replaced with an extreme militaristic system. The Cardassian orders filled in the void of how the military was then structured. Each order was known for different things. Basically, they were primarily defensive, offensive, they were infantry, or primarily naval, but in reality they were all a bit of an amalgamation of all, with no one Cardassian order being strictly land-based or spatially based. You also had the Obsidian Order, of course, but that's its whole other thing, which I've already done an episode on if you want to go back and see that. Now, this episode is specifically going to focus on the infantry detachments of the Cardassian military. The Cardassian army, to give it a real-world comparison, probably has more in common with the CCP and its military forces. Its army spends more of its time, or at least just as much of its time, basically trying to keep its own population suppressed and under control as what it would ever do fighting any external threats. The Cardassians perpetuate this image that their society is perfect, benevolent, and can do no wrong. You must trust in the government and work always for the state. Has a somewhat Soviet ring to it, doesn't it? So that's kind of how their society is structured. And the army, as a result, its role is not primarily the defense of the Cardassian people, but in actuality it is for the greater glory of the Cardassians at the expense of all of their freedoms. Even something as basic as innocence until proven guilty is a completely alien concept to the Cardassians. Now when you get to their infantry, specific infantry, you've got its military ranking system is because it is part of the same orders, and we'll use the Cardassian 6th Order as the example, as they are known to be the most fanatical and violent. The ranking system is identical to that used in their naval forces, and there's a reason for that. A gull is the equivalent of a captain, or something along those lines. And they're usually in command of a starship, starbase, but they can be put in charge of an entire planet. Gulls often command infantry units and ground detachments as well. The Cardassian infantry is known as the Cardassian Mechanized Infantry. It's known for using armoured vehicles, even vehicles not unlike a tank, APCs, as well as some combined forces, because again, the orders, the 6th Order, again using this example, both its flight, air, and naval infantry divisions are all the same. In other words, starships, fighters, ground forces, cannons and armoured vehicles on the ground are all part of the same divisions. So they all work in tandem, collaboratively, rather than, let's say, the Romulans, who we are getting to a more of a direct comparison with them in the next episode. The Romulans have the Reman as well as other forces that they would use as infantry, but their main force is their navy. Their infantry is a completely detached division. It's the same with the Federation in a sense. Starfleet has the Starfleet Marines. Historically it had the Makos, again a completely separate division. The Cardassians are fully integrated. They're one and the same. It's known that many Cardassian Gulls commanded infantry divisions on Bajor. With Garak, although this story was something of it was suspicious in nature, in fact it was a complete falsehood, he mentioned that he was once a Gull in the Cardassian Mechanized Infantry during the Bajoran occupation. It wasn't true, but it lets us know an insight into just how the Cardassian army is structured. Those infantry units were used not only to oppress Cardassian populations, but also the actual occupation of Bajor. They wear the same uniforms, carry the same weapons, and have the same naval architectural structure as the Cardassian fleet officers. These infantry units would also be ones who would become in close proximity to the Maquis and would often be seen on the so-called Maquis planets, the Federation worlds that stayed on the wrong side of the border after the treaty was signed. Apologies, after the treaty was signed. I'm not even editing that out. So, unfortunately, that's pretty much it. Because it so closely resembles their navy, and quite frankly, we don't know too much about their ranking system. We do know that basically you're talking the security forces aboard their ships would basically be infantry units that would also be deployed to the ground. They might have slightly different training because the Cardassians are not stupid. That's why Marines exist as well as Army. And I'm pretty certain as divisions they're separate, but they are within the same ranking system, the same structural design of the Army. All designed to ultimately suppress their own population first and make the powerful at the top more powerful by expanding outwards. This was a failure on Bajor and with the Maquis, to be honest, but that's what it's designed to do. And I'll leave it up to you as to how successful that actually is. Is it a good design? But that is the end of this episode, because again, there isn't much on the infantry divisions of the Cardassians. I will say, as an observation, the idea of a fully combined, unified, singular entity military will have its strengths. Obviously, human warfare works a little differently. We tend to separate things out into separate divisions so they don't step on each other's toes. But the Cardassians is literally, it goes as far as, let's use Gul Dukat. Gul Dukat was just as likely to command Terok Nor, a warship, or an infantry division somewhere in the Cardassian Empire, equally. So that's, in a nutshell, kind of how it works, to our current knowledge for the setting. With that said, again, we are at the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, subscribe. Check out the rest of the videos in this playlist, as there is now a full Cardassian playlist, as well as various other Star Trek playlists, particularly the Memory Alpha one, which contains more or less every Star Trek video I've ever uploaded. But there is the Terran Empire playlist as well, which is separate. They're not in the Memory Alpha playlist. With that now out of the way, thank you for watching. Bye-bye. I'd just like to say a thank you to everyone for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoy making these. If you did enjoy it, please consider giving a like, share, and a subscribe, and maybe checking out the other videos on the screen right now. And in the description box below, there are links to my other social media accounts.